What's going on, everybody? Only Mike here, and I'm over at the Game Creator with another quest tutorial. This is going to be part 5, and this is going to be split up in multiple parts for this one tutorial here, because this is going to be a longer one and there's a lot to do in it. Basically, what we're going to be doing is setting up a campfire and setting up the day and night. So, lightness and darkness, as Quest calls it, we're going to be setting that up to run. And yeah, it's going to take a little while. So, we're going to take this in a couple parts. But where we left off, we had our basic day and night cycle, which just counted our hours and our days. Okay, so that was very, very basic, but it gives you something that you can say, if player died on, day 5, oh, you survived 5 days, or so on and so forth. So that gives you a little, tracker for that. Um, First thing that we want to do is, of course, open up your project and everything if you're not already opened, and make sure you get in there. And what we want to do is go into our game. So underneath Objects, click on Game and find the Features tab. So underneath Features, there is a whole bunch of stuff. But what we want to find is lightness and darkness. Rooms can be dark and objects can light them up. So let's click that one. Okay, now that we have that clicked, now all of our rooms will also have an option. So if we come into our first room, and we see up at the top our tabs, light and dark. Room is initially dark. We don't want that. Okay, that's why we're setting it up for during the daytime. Our hour is at 7. So we go back up to our game and we find our attributes tab, and then we want to add a new attribute. Okay, and this attribute is going to be called Campfire. Okay, and this is not going to be a string, but a string list. So hit the drop down button and then find string list. Okay, so what this is going to do, this is going to allow us to make multiple campfires throughout the game. And when you create a campfire, it's just going to place it in the room and it's going to stay there. So you'll be able to make multiple campfires and use them as you go through. And we'll also think about maybe adding a torch or something like that. But I like the whole campfire idea because, survival game. I don't know. That's what I like. So anyways, now that we have our attribute made, now we need the actual object. So let's, under items, our room items, let's right click and add an object, and this is going to be called Campfire. Alright, with this object, what we are going to do is, object cannot be taken, okay, but we want to find the verbs tab, and we're going to add a new verb. And the verb that we want to add is going to be called ignite. Okay, now in my game, what I did was I added a list. Okay, and I gave multiple choices that we could choose to light our room with, or try to light our room with. So like in mine, I have a hand drill, a fire plow, a bow drill, and flint and steel. So each one has a different chance to basically light the fire or not. Well, since we're going to be lighting the fire, first what we want to do, besides add the verb, let me go over to features. Let's go to our features tab, and we want to make this a switchable object. So click switchable. Okay, and then this is also, we want to click lightness and darkness. Objects can be lit, can light up a room. So this object can light up a room. Okay, we want to make sure we choose those. So let's find switchable and cannot be switched on or off. We want to click the drop down and can be switched on or off. Okay, and under light and dark, we're not going to do nothing under here yet, but under light and dark, we want to click this, and this object is a light source, and its brightness is weak. So shown when the room is dark. So you will not be able to see or use anything else in the room but the campfire. Okay, that's what this does right here. And we want to make sure that we do this, because if we don't, then we won't be able to access our campfire. It'll just say, oh, you can't see it, oh, you can't see it, oh, you can't see it. And yeah, that's a real pain. So next, what we want to do is come back over to our verb tab. Okay, and then we want to add a verb, and we'll call it ignite. Ignite. All right. So, and what we want to do is that we want to set a variable. So go down to your print a message, hit the drop down, and run a script. So what we want to run is add a new script and go down to your variables and find set a variable or attribute. And what we want to set is that attribute that we made in the games, or in the game, sorry. So that is called game.campfire. Okay, and this is going to set that variable. And what do we set it to? We set it to this. Okay, I cover more on this in, I think it's part 1. Yeah, it's the very first part where I did the resource spawning, the random resource spawner. So we want to call game.campfire equals this. So basically that's going to set this in, here, let me go down. Let's find the campfire. Okay, the string list. And what it's going to do is going to add it here. So we'll be able to call on each of them, you know, throughout the game. And it's just going to add it to this list. So that way we'll be able to check it and all that other good stuff. So let's go back over to Campfire, go back to Ignite, okay, and what we want to do is actually, okay, we're back, guys. I'm sorry about that. I was just trying to think of the best way to do this if I wanted to throw it all at you right now. But what we're going to do, since we're doing this in steps, okay, we're going to take the same steps that I did. And this was just to, basically, you make it temporarily work, and then you add on to it. Excuse me, my goodness. So, with that, what we want to do after we set our variable, our game this, okay, we're going to be enabling a timer. And what timer is that? A timer that we have not made. So I know I add a lot of timers, but I like them. I do like the timers, and they seem to work pretty well, a lot better than they used to. So let's go down to our timers, oops, and let's add a timer. And we're going to call this one Campfire Timer. Okay, so here's our campfire timer. So the first thing that we want to do is add a new script. Okay, we're not going to change any of this right now. We're going to add a new script, and this is going to check if, and under the expression, hit your drop down tab, and if object is switched on. Okay, we're going to switch object, and we're going to call this expression. Okay, and we're going to call that game attribute that we made game.campfire. Alright, so that's going to check for, you know, our variable set for game.campfire, because it sets it when we hit ignite. So it's going to set it and add it to that list. Alright, so what we want to do is, after it calls the variable, then we want to add a new script, and we want to see if object is reachable. So click down your expression and hit object is reachable. Here it is. And then under object again, what we want to do is expression, and we want to do the same expression game dot campfire. Okay, so if this object is reachable, all right, and it is switched on, now it's kind of it's kind of like a fallback system. Okay, yes, you can only ignite it when you hit ignite, so it's only going to run this stuff when you ignite it and you're right next to it. But this is kind of like a fail-safe right here, because the timer can keep running after you leave the room and your fire's going to keep burning. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure when we leave the room that it's not going to keep doing what it's going to do, which is basically decrease our exposure and light up the room, which it's not going to light up the next room. It's only going to light the room that we're in, and we can only, get the benefits from it if we're next to it. So what we want to do then is add another if, and then under the expression drop down, and then we want to say object counter. Our object counter is player, and our counter name is exposure. Exposure is greater than 1. So we want to check and see if it's greater than 1. Or I'm sorry, we want to check and see if it's greater than 0. No, it's 1. I'm sorry. Shoot. Alright, so we're going to check and see if the object counter is greater than 1. If it's not, then what we want to do is decrease an object counter. So find, add a new script, scroll down to variables, and hit decrease object counter. Okay, that object counter is going to be player, and it's going to be our exposure. And then we're going to do this twice, so just copy it and paste it. Alright, we're just going to do that twice. We could set and hit subtract 2. So if you wanted to, you could come down, add a new script. Okay, find your variables, set variable or attribute. And what that is going to be is player dot exposure. Okay, and then we're going to go over here and put player dot exposure minus 2. Okay, so that's going to do the exact same thing as both of these will. Alright, so let's just go ahead, since we made it, let's go ahead and just take that one, and we'll just use that. Alright, looks a little nicer, less things to run through. Alright, so that's going to check if the campfire is on, if the campfire is reachable, and if our exposure is over 1. So basically, if it's 2 or greater, it's going to subtract by 2. If it's not, it'll set at 1, and our other exposure time is still running also, okay, because it is a campfire, so technically we still are outside. So, and then also with this day and night cycle, we could also make it to where during the day we don't take our exposure doesn't go up, okay, or we can have it to where it goes up slower, or there's a random chance that it goes up. So we'll get into that later. But now what we want to do is scroll down, and we want to find the else if, okay, which is attached to our object switched on. So we want to say if object is switched off, okay, object is the expression game.campfire. Then what we want to do is disable timer. So disable timer, find that under your timers, under add a new script. And the name is going to be an expression, and it's going to be this. Because if you just tried to call the timer by itself, I know it used to, I'm not sure if it does anymore, but when you used to just call the timer by its name in the timer itself, it did not work. Okay, so with this, now what we want to do is, since this happens every 1 second, let's go to our exposure time. And let's do this one every, oh, let's do vice versa. Okay, let's go back to the campfire, sorry. And let's turn that one up to 2 seconds. Alright, so basically we're going to be pretty much staying even, alright, through our exposure with this setup that we got going on right now. This should keep us about even. So now that we have the timer, we need to call it. So let's go back under our campfire, find ignite under your verbs, okay, and underneath set the variable, we want to add a new script. Okay, and that script is going to be, we want to switch on, where's our switch? Switch on, and object is going to be this. And then after we switch it on, we want to enable a timer. So enable timer, and we're going to call that timer that we just made. So our campfire timer. Okay, so what this is going to do is going to set that variable in our game. Okay, so that way we can call multiple in multiple different rooms and it'll still work. And we're going to switch it on, and then we're going to enable the timer. Okay, and then when that timer is enabled, you'll see our exposure should stay still. So what we want to do really quick though, before we go in and test this, we want to add another one. So let's add a new variable and let's call it extinguish. You know what? I'm not going to get all fancy with words because I'll have to look that word up and I don't want to feel stupid, even though I just told you. So I'm going to feel stupid anyways. And I'm just going to call put out. We'll put out fire. There. Put out fire. Okay. And what we're going to do with that one, we're going to click the drop down, run a script, and the script that we're going to add is very simple. Add a new script. We want to switch off. Okay, switch off expression this. Okay, so as we put in our campfire timer, alright, if the object is switched off, it's going to disable this timer so it won't run anymore. And that's why we wanted to put that extinguish, put out fire, whatever you want to call it. That's why we put that one in. So let's go ahead and let's make the room dark that we're in. So let's go, room is initially dark, and let's test this out. Oh, we need a campfire first. Alright, let's go to our game, and under script, we want to, let's go ahead and clone and move an object. Clone object campfire, and move to expression player dot parent. Okay, that's going to clone the campfire and move it into our room. Now, if we did not set the variable, okay, here in verbs under ignite, if we did not set this variable under game and we did not make it a string list under here, it would not call this script. It'd be like, or not this one, it wouldn't call the ignite script. Okay, so it would not call that. So what we want to do now is go ahead and test it. Let's test this out. So a room is initially dark, we can't see anything. Let's go ahead and, oh, we can switch it on. We don't want that. Let's stop again. Let's go to our campfire. Let's go to object. And right here we see switch on. Let's delete that. Switch off, delete that. The take, let's switch off. And the use, let's switch that off and drop, switch that. Since we can't take it, we don't need any of these variables. I mean, they really don't matter. Okay, now we can go test it. So we go to our campfire and we see our stuff is going up. Let's ignite. Okay, so we see our exposure is pretty much staying at 8, between 7 and 8. Okay, now if we were to go put out right now, if we were to put out the fire, so put out fire, our exposure will start reclimbing, and it will keep climbing. So let's ignite it again, and now we'll stay in between 15 and 16. And it's going to sit there, and it's going to keep doing that over and over and over. So the times, the amount of exposure and everything else is totally dependent on you. You can add and take away as much as you want to and set the timer for as long as you want to. Okay, like I said before, these are all demonstration purposes so you guys can see it live quickly and see how that works. So initially, it seems like we have no light. So what we need to do is that we need to figure out what is going on after switching on an object. Okay, so what we want to do is add a new script under after switching on object, and we want to say scroll down and find where is it? Give me 2 seconds to look, guys. Oh, it's all the way at the bottom here. That's right. Under darkness, all the way at the bottom, under darkness, we want to make room light. Okay? And the room is going to be... it's going to be this one. So we're just going to make room light player dot parent. Okay, so what that's going to do is call it immediately, alright, and it'll make the room bright. And then under after switching off object, we want to add darkness, so make room dark. Now, like I said, these are going to change in our other parts. I just wanted to add this in so you guys can see how it's going to work once we get done and we're able to actually use like a fire plow to try to start the fire and everything else. We can add wood to make it burn longer and whatnot. But for now, this is what we're doing. So make room dark and expression player dot parent. Now, if we were to leave this like this, okay, let's say we were just playing the game and we lit the fire and then we moved into a different room, okay, and we were in that room and we were picking up something, if we could see, okay. Now, if the timer ran out and it switched off, it's going to make the room that we are currently in, not the room with the campfire, but make the room that we are currently in dark. So like I said, these will be changing, but this is just short-lived so we can test. Alright, we see a campfire. Alright, let's ignite it. Alright, we ignite it and now we see mushrooms pop up. Alright, we can see our room now. So now if we go back to campfire and we put out the fire, all of those objects disappear, and so do our exits. So we can't see exits, we can't see objects, we can't see anything. So let's ignite it again, and now we can see our object, and we can see our room, and all that good stuff. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this part 1 of our part 4 series in our quest tutorial with making a campfire. So until next time guys, give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and later.